I'm a consultant in emergency medicine here at Royal Berkshire Hospital, where I've been working for the past 5.5 years. Prior to that, I ran an emergency department in Cape Town, South Africa, which in many ways had a rather different patient profile to what we have in Reading. But what we are seeing is some of the things that were very common in Cape Town are becoming increasingly common here in Reading, and that particularly refers to the knife crime that we've been seeing and the victims of those crimes. In South Africa, we really had a virtual epidemic of knife crime. On an average weekend, we may have had 30, 40, 50 patients with stab wounds to the chest that needed admission for one reason or another. And many of those patients ended up very severely injured, either in theatre or in fact dying. And it's very unfortunate that we're now, with knife crime having been relatively rare in the UK, are starting to see the emergence of more and more patients arriving in emergency departments across the country with these sort of injuries. And it's really starting to give us a lot of echoes of practice abroad, and obviously this is something that concerns us both from the point of view of the types of patients that are coming in. Invariably they're youngsters who may not appreciate the risks associated with having carried a knife in the first place, and certainly I'm sure didn't intend to become a victim of a knife wound themselves, but in fact sadly we've already had a few deaths due to knife crime in this hospital in the past couple of years, and all of them equally tragic. What you see with a knife wound is sometimes very innocuous, a small flesh wound, but that doesn't really tell the story of what's going on inside, of damaged organs that often can't be fixed particularly easily. And I've had young people come in with knife wounds that we've treated. We've known that they've been severe, we've known that it's going to be touch and go, but you do your best, you hope for the best, and at the end of the day, the people may end up going to operating theatres, they may go across to other hospitals for further treatment and ultimately not survive. See, stab wounds to the chest are particularly dangerous. A stab wound that's probably done in a moment of madness and not necessarily intended to inflict a fatal injury ends up hitting the wrong spot, and sadly patients can die in minutes from a stab wound to the right area, to sort of dangerous areas of the chest and neck, the abdomen. I mean, any stab wound to the torso has the potential to be extremely dangerous. What possible good can come from carrying a weapon whose sole use really is to inflict a lethal injury on another person? And the intent may not to be to inflict a lethal injury, but the reality, the moment a knife is used on another person, they may die from the injuries of that knife. And whether that's the intent or not, that is the reality, and that's what we see, and that's what all of us, both the families of the people involved and the doctors and the nurses and staff who look after patients when they come in, end up having to live with for the rest of their lives.